Chums, welcome back to a Game with Chums podcast. I'm your host, Paul, Paulie C, Paulie B, Paulie Dreamy, Paulie Steamy, Paulie Leamy, Paulie...
Just making up words now.
Chimi. No, this is what I'm known from. This is what I'm known all around London as. I've got various different names and guises. But yeah, as you can hear, my wonderful co-host, the glorious, the spectacular, the underwhelming, the narcissistic... Mr. Roars, how the devil are you today?
Excuse me, I'm like the least narcissistic person in this room.
I remember when you were quite narcissistic at one point. Remember
Really?
you even said that you... I remember it was a while ago. It might have been on MySpace or something like that. That you wrote a post saying, "Am I narcissistic?" I think you went through a period of you were a bit narcissistic, but you obviously that was years ago, and obviously people change. But I do remember you being quite... I do remember that. I wish I can pull up MySpace and find that post, but I remember you saying that. But anyway,
you might be thinking of someone else. But anyway,
I'm pretty sure it was you, man.
I am here, picking up my shoes for some reason. Yeah. Hello. That's all I've got.
Well, that was great. Thanks for your input. Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah, it's been we've missed a few weeks, I think. Obviously, like, we've been busy, so we've missed I think we missed 1 week out, or maybe two. But yeah, we're back now, so we're back better than ever, sexier than ever, fresher than ever. For people who's listening on audio, which I do know there are a few of you, I've shaved my beloved sexy beard. Every once in a while, you got to sort of tame the forest because it goes out of control, and you got to like cut it down and let it regrow bigger and better than it was before.
So what you're saying is you had a forest fire for your face?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's probably a bad thing to mention at this point. Actually, everyone's on fire at the moment. Yeah,
Southern Europe is burning. Like, people are like, "Oh, when are we going to get our summer in the UK?" And I was just like, you know what? I'm quite content. I'm quite content with the fact that the weather's a bit overcast and damp, because in some parts of Europe, they're literally on fire. They're like 45 degrees. There's no way for a human being to live.
It's not good.
No. So my thoughts are with the people of Greece, Portugal, Spain, and basically anywhere that's experiencing extreme heat. I know Italy as well. The south of Italy is experiencing extreme heat. But yeah, like, stay safe out there, guys, and hopefully this doesn't become a common occurrence, which some scientists are predicting, and obviously some people are obviously saying we're fear mongering. So maybe it's a bit of both. Who knows, man? Like, all I do know is getting bloody hot. Hotter.
I mean, it's getting hotter every year. I mean, how can you deny global warming at this point? But, yeah. Stay safe out there, because it's not good. Stay safe.
Yep. So what have you been up to, Mr. Roars?
What have I been up to?
I've been
kind of not playing games as much as I'd like.
Why not?
Because I've just been too damn tired. I haven't been sleeping very well, so by the time I get in from work, I just can't be bothered to do anything. I've been working my way through Trails from Zero still, very slowly. I was playing Diablo before we went to Lisbon, which you mentioned. I don't think we've done a podcast since then, but we went to Lisbon last month, partially to see Rammstein. And I was playing Diablo 4 before that, and I haven't played it since we got back, so I need to get back into that. Obviously, the new series of Jujutsu Kaisen has started, and I realised I barely remember any of Jujutsu Kaisen, so I've started watching season 1 again.
You always do that, man. Jesus Christ.
But this is the thing.
It's always do this.
It'll be like 3 or 4 years.
I can't watch the show yet. I have to catch up. I have to rewatch the first fucking 2 seasons. Any show or films you watch, man, you always say, "I can't watch that yet. I have to watch everything else again." I'm just like, don't do that.
Okay,
you've got your time is so.
One thing, I've got a terrible memory. 2, it's like 3 or 4 years between seasons. I can't
Oh, it
remember any of
doesn't.
that stuff.
Oh God, man. I never, rarely ever rewatch anything when I go to, because then I just waste my time just rewatching everything, and then something else will come out. It's just you got to manage your time better than that, man. Your free time, especially if you
Yeah, but
like you say
anime's
you're always
easy.
tired. But
Anime's
you
easy.
you do that with films
22.
and shows as well, man.
Not really. I don't really watch any films or shows these
Remember,
days.
like you were like, "Oh, I can't watch this new Star Wars like shows because I have to rewatch like the I haven't seen like the other shows." Like you don't need to watch some shows that are standalone, so you don't need to watch any previous material to enjoy the Star Wars shows. Even though the Star Wars shows have been kind of shit, and the only
I
good
mean,
one
I think the only one I haven't watched is Andor anyway, so
Andor's the
I'll
best one.
watch that at some point. I'll get
Andor's the
around to
best
it.
one.
It's not going anywhere.
Andor's the best show. It's criminally underrated. It shits all over um, Obi-Wan and what other one have they had? Oh, the Book of Boba Fett was just a load of shit. Mandalorian season 2 and 3 wasn't that great. It was okay, but it got a bit fan servicey in season 2. Season 3, I dropped halfway through because I was like, "This is just a pilot. This is just nonsense now." But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
But yeah, so I've got like a few episodes of that left, and now I can watch Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, which I didn't even realize was on streaming, and then I'll get on to the second series. But I mean, it's easy enough to rewatch anime because it's like 22 minutes an episode. You can just watch half an episode here and there whenever you've got like 10 minutes. So it's not a big deal with anime. But yeah, that's about it basically. Yesterday I kind of did some work on my PC because this is how tired I've been. Before we went to Lisbon, like weeks before, 2, 3 weeks before, I bought a new CPU and an AIO, and they've just been sitting there for like 6 to 8 weeks at this point because I just didn't have the time or the inclination to actually install it. And then obviously we've been doing stuff every weekend since we got back from Lisbon. Like the following weekend after that, I went to see Iron Maiden at the O2. The weekend after that, we went to see Spirit Box in Camden. And then the weekend after that, we were at Hyper Japan, which we have a video up on the channel. Go give it a look. And this is the first weekend since we got back from Lisbon that I've just had free time, so I just did that yesterday. And I put in some Lian Lee Infinity fans like a couple of months back, and I set them to like purple and green, which probably sounds terrible if you haven't seen it, but I was like, I'm going to do like an EVA Unit 01 color scheme. So I put that on that, and I was like, that looks pretty good. And then I put in this new AIO yesterday. I got a Kraken Elite, which has got like a little screen on the pump. And then I was like, just for a laugh, I thought I'd look for Evangelion gifs to put on it, and there was a gif of EVA Unit 1 screaming. So I was like, yeah, that's going on there. That's kind of tied it all together now. Might have gone too far with it, but I think it looks pretty cool. That's what I did yesterday.
Did you put a photo up of your PC running so we can see the GIF and everything?
I will chuck it on Twitter later. I sent it to you yesterday on WhatsApp.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I was looking.
Yeah, maybe I'll stick it up on Twitter or something. But the problem is, like, the purple on the fans looks like pink when you video it. So it kind of looks like pink and green. You just have to take my word for it that it's purple. That's what I did yesterday. So that was I quite enjoy tinkering with the PC, but it's also a pain in the backside because I don't really have anywhere proper to work on it. So I have to kind of carry it down to the kitchen and put it on the worktop. But it's done now and it looks cool. And I've got a new CPU. Frame rates are better, which is nice. Oh yeah, also I should mention as well, I bought Spider-Man on Steam like a while back and hadn't even played it. So I fired that up. I think like Friday night just to see how it ran on my old CPU. And then I fired it up again yesterday to see if it's better. And it is quite a bit better. So I might play that soon because I've been meaning to play it for ages. I actually bought it on PS4 when it came out and then just never touched it. I think I was on holiday actually when it came out. So I got it when I got back. I remember you did a live stream of it when it came out. and I
You
was,
did.
funnily enough, I was in Lisbon then, and I
Oh,
remember sitting in the Airbnb and watching you live stream it for a minute.
no, yeah. Oh, thank you. It's good that no one watches my live streams when I do it on Twitch now.
Too much competition, Paul.
Too much watching people sleeping and going around their business, going around harassing Japanese people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sounds like fun, man.
What have you been up to?
Thanks for asking. Yeah,
Oh,
man.
very welcome.
Like you said, been quite busy. I think, like myself, been going to see a lot of gigs. Obviously, when we went to Hyper Japan. Yeah, I didn't see Iron Maiden. I saw the Red Hot Chili Peppers the other week at your favorite football team, Tottenham.
The
Yeah,
toilet
very
bowl.
the toilet. Their stadium's banging though, man. Inside is so nice.
Yeah, but
It's
it still
really
looks like a
nice.
toilet bowl from the sky.
From the sky, it looks like a toilet bowl, but inside, it's so like obviously because it's brand new, modern. But it's such a nice stadium, really nice. And where we sat on the like on that right at the back, but it's on, you know, that they got that they're banging on about the slope thing that sort of leans into the stadium, into the pitch.
Mm.
We're sitting on that, and that was really cool. The seats we had were really cool. They put on a good performance, really good. Yeah, good times. And like you said, we saw Spirit Box. They were good, really good live. Saw them at the Roundhouse in Camden Town. I haven't been to that venue in God knows how long, years and years. But yeah, that was enjoyable. And like I said, we went to Hyper Japan on a Sunday, which we normally go on a Saturday, but I had a prior engagement on Saturday. So we moved it to Sunday, which I don't know if I'm just getting too old. I don't think I could do a Sunday event because, you know, we got work the next day and your body's just like from all that walking and stuff, it's sort of like kind of draining and you need a day to recover sort of thing, especially the way we do it. We like, walk around and we obviously have a few drinks and stuff like that. That sort of takes a toll on the body as well. But yeah, so from going forward, the events will all be a Saturday one, unless we get invited to an event and they want us to do a Sunday, then we'll do that.
Which
Yeah,
seems very unlikely, but
it seems highly unlikely, but you never know. Maybe if I
yeah,
keep if I keep pestering the events, one day they will eventually get cave in. I mean, we don't have to be guests on the show. We can be like as in media, you know, like not journalists, but you know, like someone who covers the event, get passes and stuff like that. But yeah, so
yeah.
that's what
Come
we've
on,
been up to.
LAGC. Our videos always get good views.
We have the best performing one on there for sure. I know one of our early ones from 2018. That's probably the best performing London and Anime Gaming Con video out there, and all our videos always do pretty well because people they want to know what it's like. So obviously they type in, and our video always seems to like the engagement seems to always go up closer to the event.
Yeah,
So people just want to know what it's like, and I feel like we do them a service by people watching our video and going, "Oh, look, this looks pretty interesting. Let's go to that."
yeah. Give
So
us
yeah,
free press passes. Come on.
yeah, come on, press passes, man. That's what we want. But yeah. Anyway, what has been happening in the world of video games? There's been some news recently, some big news, some small news, but a lot of it's revolving around Xbox and the ongoing drama with the purchase of Activision. So let's talk about a bit about that before we move on.
I want to say that was my chair. It wasn't me farting.
Uh-huh. Yeah, little squeaky one. So what's been happening with that whole Activision buyout?
I don't
What's
remember
the
if
new?
we've. I don't think we've discussed this
No, we
in
haven't.
a while.
We
So,
haven't. No.
so the FTC tried to go for a preliminary injunction because there were whispers that Microsoft was going to try and close the transaction, despite the fact that obviously the FTC had moved to block it, and they wanted to hear it in their administrative court, and they pushed it like way out till like August.
Mm.
At which point, Microsoft and Activision would have had to either extend the agreement and potentially meaning more money, or just like one of them could have walked away at that point because the agreement ran out July 18th, I think. So I think Microsoft kind of called their bluff and kind of soft leaked out they were going to close it over them, which I don't think they had any intention to do because obviously the CMA had also blocked it. It seems to have worked because the FTC tried to apply for a preliminary injunction and got slapped down and lost the case in no uncertain terms. Then they appealed the decision. The judge basically said, no, I don't think so. And then they appealed to like the Ninth Court in the US, the appeals court, and they also said no. And I think at this point they're still trying to appeal to like the Supreme Court or something, but the FTC basically seems done at this point. And the day that happened, news also came out that Microsoft and the CMA, Competition Markets Authority here in the UK, had decided to pause their appeal to negotiate and try and find a way forward. So that seemed very specifically timed, given at that point the CMA would have just been alone in the world as the only regulator trying to block it. So it kind of seems like they're trying to sort of find a way out without looking like they're just completely backing down. But I mean, this is kind of what they should have done from the first point. They should have just tried to extract concessions out of Microsoft instead of just like outright saying no. So right now we're just waiting to see what happens with that. Microsoft have to make there's the chair again. Microsoft have to sort of submit a different kind of plan to the CMA for how they sort of want to get around it. There's been no concrete talks on what that's going to look like, but apparently there are rumors out there they're going to like divest streaming rights for Activision content in the UK. So sell the rights off. They control the IP still, but sell the rights for streaming off to some third party that can then license it out to whoever it wants. Because what the CMA blocked it on was the cloud concerns, because they thought with this Microsoft would just have an unassailable lead in cloud gaming, which everyone kind of thinks is a bit stupid because, you know, cloud gaming is like a fraction of a % of the market at this point, but it is what it is. If that's their way around it, that seems like a pretty sensible thing to do. Just like they'll still control the IP, they'll still be able to put it in Game Pass and everything, but then if they want to put it on xCloud, then they're going to have to negotiate with this new third-party rights holder for that. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. We're just kind of in limbo waiting for that to happen. So we don't know when we're going to hear anything about it, but people seem to think that it's what they put in is going to be accepted, because it seems like they've been sort of discussing this before he's sort of announcing it. And there's like a general feeling that they wouldn't have announced that they're negotiating if they didn't think it was going to do the trick and get this thing over the line. So maybe we're going into August now. It's possible that this could all be over at the end of August.
We hope so. It's been dragging on a while, hasn't it?
It should be nice to just get it all done. I mean, we've both talked about how we're not really that particularly interested in Microsoft owning Activision. Blizzard doesn't really do anything for either of us. I would have preferred them to this wouldn't have done anything for their strategy, the reasons they're buying ABK, but I would have much preferred them to buy like Remedy or something. That'd be much more interesting for me as an Xbox gamer. They have said they're not done after this. So
sorry to interrupt, did you see that cryptic video they released about that hedgehog? And it was running in the offices.
Yeah.
People have been assuming that their next purchase could be Sega.
I don't think they're going to go for another publisher, to be honest.
I think, yeah, with all the hassle they've had with Activision, to go after another big publisher seems a bit, especially with all the ongoing
scrutiny.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. But who knows? Like I say, I think they should just go after, well, not go after, but purchase a small studios, single studios here and there. They
Mm.
definitely want to make more moves in Japan, so maybe invest in some Japanese studios. Maybe that's why people were talking about Sega, because obviously that's a Japanese company. But
Mm.
I think they're probably just making more partnership with them. They're probably partnering with them than outright buying them, because they seem to have a pretty good relationship. They've always seemed to have, especially in the first Xbox, the OG, they had a very good, strong partnership with them. So maybe they're sort of reinforcing that, because that's what Xbox seem to be doing, is sort of more shoring up um, shoring up deals and partnerships with publishers. Because this recently, the other day, I think from the time of this recording, it was like 2 days ago. Um, Xbox announced that Final Fantasy 14 will be finally coming to the Xbox consoles, which came out of nowhere. I wasn't really expecting that. Old Phil Spencer came up on stage at the Final Fantasy Fan Fest and announced the game was coming over to Xbox, and also announced that future Square Enix games should be coming to Xbox as well. So it looks like they're sort of, it did look like for a time that, you know, Square Enix was skipping Xbox a lot you know, with their games. And I think the fan outcry has been heard, and Phil Spencer's gone over to speak to the new CEO, which I think that's played a big part in it. The new CEO of Square Enix seems to be more willing to talk to and partner with Xbox. So that's a big help. I think that helped. If they didn't have a new CEO come in, I don't think the status quo would have changed. I think they still would have skipped Xbox and focused primarily on PlayStation. But
Mm.
now the new CEO sort of has a different perspective and is making deals. Does that mean Final Fantasy remake will come to Xbox? I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, it wasn't an exclusive; it was always a timed exclusive. So maybe they're pushing for that to come through, and I could probably see that coming through. I mean, I played the game on Xbox, on PlayStation. I know you played it; you didn't like it very much. But I would be nice if it did come to Xbox, just so the Xbox players can experience it for themselves. I don't think Final Fantasy 16 will come out. That's going to be exclusive to PlayStation for the time being, anyway. I mean, have they out and out said that that's only coming out on PlayStation, or is there like a flexible? Is there is there an, will there be a possibility that it will come to Xbox?
It's timed. So when it was announced,
I
I
know.
think it was Chris String came out on Twitter and said it's 6 months fully exclusive, and after that it can come to PC, and then it's a year like other consoles. But I think people have been kind of assuming that it's never coming to Xbox, given like what's happened with 7R.
Mm.
But it was, I mean, at the very least, if it does come to Xbox, it's not going to be until next summer. But yeah, like this was unexpected. So mentioned a few times, I play Final Fantasy 14 a lot. If you're watching on video, you can just see just down there is my A Realm Reborn Collector's Edition. And then I've got like a couple more up there, the Endwalker one, Stormblood. Right behind me there, I've got like, Encyclopedia Eorzea and all the art books.
So basically, you're just a giant nerd.
Yes. No, I love Final Fantasy 14. I mean, again, like, got it tattooed on my wrist. So I've wanted it on Xbox. I play it on PC, but I wanted it on Xbox just because it'd be nice to be able to play it on my preferred console platform. And I kind of didn't see this coming. I'd kind of given up because around XO19, which we went to back pre-pandemic, remember those times? Phil Spencer kind of soft announced it. He said it will be coming. And then there's just been sort of chat here and there over like a couple of years after that, where they were kind of trying to hash things out because, like obviously, Square Enix needed Microsoft to waive the Xbox Live Gold fee because they didn't want people paying 2 subscriptions to play it, because obviously FF14 is a subscription MMO. And then the crossplay thing, because even when like Xbox were very crossplay friendly, they had a stipulation that people on either platform should be able to turn it off and only play against people on the same platform, which obviously wouldn't work for Final Fantasy 14. So they're trying to get them to waive that stuff. And then it's just like the manpower of like porting this to a new platform, because at this point it is basically 5 games in one, 5 big games in one, and it's a live game that's constantly evolving. So it's not going to be an easy porting process. You've got like the base game, 4 expansions at this point. The next one's coming out, which is when this is going to launch as well, I think. But just before I think the new expansion drops. So it's a lot of game to port, and that was kind of where we were at for the last couple of years. It was just on they didn't have the manpower to do it, given they're still developing the game. So I'd kind of given up hope, and then Phil walks out of FanFest. Yeah, that was surprising. Another thing that's annoying is they're actually doing FanFest in multiple locations this year, one of which is London, I think in October. And I really wanted to go, but fucking hell, it was expensive.
How much was the tickets?
I can't even remember off the top of my head, but it was too much for me to justify it. And also they had like really low allocations. I think it was like 1,000 tickets or something. So even if I'd have tried to get one, they probably would have sold out in like half a second. So it's a shame, but yeah, maybe one of these years I'll get to go. But yeah, like it kind of feels like it represents kind of a resetting of the relationship, because it's been very up and down over the years. I don't think there were any Square Enix games on the OG Xbox. I think FF11, I don't think it was on OG Xbox, it was on 360. And then obviously 13 coming to 360 was a big deal. And they even had some like exclusives in that gen, like Infinite Undiscovery, and Star Ocean 4 was exclusive to Xbox for a while. And then last gen, everything just kind of, towards the end of last gen, beginning of this gen, everything just kind of fell apart. Like they had a Game Pass deal. They put a load of Final Fantasy games on Game Pass. They ported like 7, 8, 9 old versions, 10, 12. And they all sort of went into and left Game Pass. 15 came. World of Final Fantasies there. I mean, I've got all of these on my shelf. So, you know, these are things that exist. And then the last couple of years, it's just nothing. It's like, oh yeah, we're not giving you remake, but you can have Crisis Core. Oh, thanks. The only reason that game exists is to get people up to speed for the next part of the remake, because Zach's clearly going to be in it. But yeah, hopefully this means a thawing of relations and kind of a resetting of that kind of relationship, and we'll see more stuff come over, because even like recently stuff's been skipping. Like Octopath 2 didn't come over. Live Alive didn't come over. Bunch of other stuff didn't come over. A lot of the smaller stuff, and then obviously like 7R still isn't there. 16 is a timed exclusive, and who knows? I mean, I feel a lot more positive about that eventually coming to Xbox today than I did a couple of days ago. Like I'd basically written that off, because we know 7R was timed. It said it on the damn box, like not coming out until it's PlayStation exclusive till next April or whatever it was at the time. And then they extended it with Intergrade for another 6 months, and then nothing happened after that. And it went to Epic Game Store, and then it came to Steam after a while, and still it's not on Xbox. And the game is what, 3.5 years old at this point. So I was just like expecting 16 never to come, but now I feel like it's a decent chance it will. So yeah, it feels positive, I guess. We'll see how it actually sort of shakes out in reality over the next couple of years. Hopefully, it'd be very nice if stuff just started coming over now, like stuff that's skipped Xbox over, just started popping up over the next sort of 6 months or so. That'd be nice.
Do you think this dispels the rumors that Sony were going to buy Square Enix? Because there was a lot of rumors, obviously, with the relationship they have, that Sony were going to eventually buy Square Enix, which me personally, I don't think they were ever going to do. I think this relationship that they have with Square Enix works really well for PlayStation. It's in their benefit, so I don't feel like they want to buy Square Enix. What they have, like I say, what they have now, where most of the new releases are exclusive to, especially Final Fantasy, are exclusive to the PlayStation works, benefits Sony. So at the moment, I don't feel like they're going to buy. I could be wrong, might do, but with the new deal now and the new CEO, I don't know if that will happen. I don't think it will. But there's been rumors about, obviously, a lot of people on Twitter, especially the Sony fans, have been looking at potential studios and publishers that Sony could buy. Some of them are just outrageous, like 2K. Ain't no fucking way 2K are going to sell. People were like saying, "Oh, they could afford them." It's not. I said it's not about affording them. 2K don't want to sell. They're making hand over fist money. The only reason why like Bethesda and Activision sold is because I think Bethesda were looking for buyers, weren't they? They were looking to sell. Activision were
for like 2 years before
so,
Xbox bought them.
I know like their Activision had problems with their CEO, and their lot of scandals. The image is not great, so that was a good opportunity for Xbox to go and try and test their luck, and obviously that worked. But with someone like 2K, EA, they definitely don't want to. They're more likely to buy Sony than the other way around. That's how big their companies are.
Well, EA were actually exploring a merger a little while ago.
So yeah, with Ubisoft or something like that, though. I think
no, it was like a media company like Viacom or Universal or something. I can't remember who it was now. But they wanted to merge with a big entertainment company, but then like the CEO of EA, was it Patrick Wilson? I think he wanted to retain control of the merged entity, which is why I think it all fell apart. So they're kind of looking around, I think, but I don't think Sony are going to buy them. I think it'd be difficult for Sony to buy a publisher of that size. They could probably do it, finance it in some way, but it would be a hell of a lot of debt for them to take on.
It'll be a bit too much. Maybe something to do with Disney. I know Disney are looking for buyers. I heard. I think the only people who can afford Disney are like mega corporations like Amazon or something like that. I don't think Sony can afford to buy out.
Came out about Disney was that Apple were going to buy them, but
that's it. Apple, yeah. Like
there's actually anything in it.
There's only a few companies in the world that can afford to buy out or to buy Disney, because Disney were buying everyone at one point. Look how much they were spending on purchasing studios and IPs just to put on, like Xbox were doing, to put on their streaming platform, their subscription. And obviously Disney, the brand, is taking a few hits. Their films are not performing as well. They're losing money. So there were rumors that they wanted to sell, but I wouldn't think too much. All they need is a couple of more good hits. They should be back in. They'll be back in it. They'll be back on top. Obviously, like Marvel, their films have not been too good. The quality has dipped. I've noticed that. I really like the cinematic universe of Marvel. I think it's a fantastic achievement. But I've noticed that Phase 4, it had some good films in there. Obviously, Spider-Man. I thought Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness was good, but there has been a distinct dip in quality of their films.
It's because you're kind of getting into, like, the longer it goes on, the more you're getting into like C-tier characters.
Yeah, I mean, like Iron Man was kind of C-tier until they made him a big thing. He wasn't like everyone's. It was always Spider-Man, Wolverine, and those sort of characters that were a top. And Iron Man was sort of like billionaire.
That's why they need to just get onto X-Men and just kind of.
They need to bring in X-Men.
Something new.
I mean, like
it's like completely separate.
Wolverine is in the new Deadpool. That's been confirmed, and obviously the multiverse. That's how they're going to explain that one. But yeah, they do need. And
obviously, kind of sick of multiverse stuff at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone's doing it now. I mean, I don't think Marvel were the first to do it, but they're the first one to do it on the big screen.
A grand scale.
Yeah, so everyone wants to have their own multiverse and
Saying that
you know,
everything everywhere was
connected.
still great.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's the news. So should we move on to our main topic?
I believe we should.
So, yep, our main topic, which is Mr. Ross, remind the lovely listeners and viewers what it's
I
going to
thought
be.
we could have a chat because
Oh yeah,
I
I like
see
having
this topic
chats.
popping up every now and then, and it always kind of. So if it just makes me feel old, and that's why I don't like it. But
We are old.
well, yeah, but you don't have to. We can ignore that. Can pretend otherwise. Still, like have a gaming podcast and pretend we're young people.
Yeah,
But
put out with the kids.
but I see this pop up every now and then, and it's like, I guess the question is, at what point does a game or a console or a generation become retro to you? Because you see people see like stuff online, it's like retro gaming, and it's a 360. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, what? And to me, that's just too recent. Too recent for you, Paul.
Yeah, I mean that was probably my sort of favorite generation 360 period, the PlayStation 3 area. I think that was when I was really like neck deep in head and shoulders in neck deep into gaming. I think that was my prime of gaming because it came out in our like sort of early 20s, and we were not coming into money, but we were like had like part-time jobs, or like I was in university at the time, so I had a lot of like free time, and I just remember playing a shitload of like 360 games, a lot. And to think that now, which doesn't feel that long ago, but it was, to now that to be called retro and having the younger gamers look at that as something old and retro, it's kind of like, wow, where has time gone? Because time, like everyone says, time does fly, especially when you get older and you get into the monotony of working. Because
Your life just disappears before your
yeah,
eyes.
I mean, like some people, like I definitely do. I work from paycheck to paycheck. I can't wait to get paid. You know, I'm not paid poorly, but I'm not paid great where I can just have no, like, not worry about like money. I always have in the back of my head thinking about money, but I'm not at the point where I have to count every penny. But I'm sort of like, in the middle. So, very like sort of like comfortable, but not like I can't, obviously spend extravagantly. Still have to work, and but um I found out like when you have money, your time goes and you have less time for gaming. But I do remember that the 360 period and the OG Xbox period, PlayStation 2, were sort of it was our era of gaming. And to find out that that's now retro, the 360 era does feel old. And I just don't see it as retro yet. Retro for me is like
Yeah, that was going to be my
Nintendo.
next question. What do you think if someone says retro gaming to you? What's the first thing that pops into
Nintendo,
your head?
Super Nintendo, that period. That was my like growing up sort of era. I know some people grew up on Atari, but that was way before, not way before, but before my time. But I definitely say Nintendo, Super Nintendo is what I count as retro. N64, but I never had an N64. There was a period where I sort of got out of gaming, and that was that period where I was like I don't know how old I was at that time, but probably like a teenager. So I was all into getting like going out, getting girls and stuff like that, hanging out with your mates. This is pre like mobile
Going for a
phones, social
kickabout down the
media.
park.
Well, yeah, like try and get a bottle of beer at the corner shop. Send the guy who looked the eldest to get the beer, and like hang out in like parks and stuff, and try and chat up the local birds. So yeah, that I sort of got out of gaming. It wasn't until like the OG Xbox era that I got back into it. So I bought that console on credit, I believe, when I was like I don't know how old I was, like late teens.
2005. Oh, the OG Xbox. That was
OG,
2001 that came out. No,
yeah. So I was,
came out 2002 in the UK.
like late teens, early 20s, and I bought that. I was like, oh, I kind of want to. I think it was like the Knights of the Republic sort of got me back into gaming because like, that's when the prequels were coming out, and I was just like, yeah, I kind of fancy playing a Star Wars game, and I just sort of stumbled. Remember Debenhams in Croydon, the downstairs part where it
Game
had the game.
downstairs.
Yeah, that's where I got it from. So I was just in there, like just a little walk around Croydon as we tended to do back in the day. And I just sort of went, oh, okay, now it's a Republic. Sort of looked at that and I was just like, I had a Debenhams like sort of card, but you can buy now and pay later. So I used that and I bought the OG Xbox and that game, and it came with Halo, I believe that one, and I just bought that and took it home and just played the shit out of that. Um, so yeah, I consider the OG Xbox kind of is retro. Yeah, but I still don't see people still play the 360, man. You know what I mean? It's still popular. I know, like with the Activision like deal sort of probably going through that the servers for the 360 of that or some of the games back then have come back alive. So that's pretty like, see people still own it and see people still play it. And I still think it's a pretty good piece of tech. I don't think it's like retro yet, but I do know like a lot of the younger guys will view that as retro. Even some people think that they'll probably say, "Oh, that was my first console when I was a kid, growing up." I was just like, man, I feel old as shit, man.
That
You know what I
reminds me
mean?
of like a chat I had on the Eurogamer forum a few years ago when it was around the time when Halo 5 was coming out. So it would have been like 2015.
Mm.
And there was one guy on there saying, "Oh, Halo was my childhood. I was 7 when Halo CE came out." And I was like, "Oh my God,
Yeah,
Jesus Christ." I was
we're
like, it came out over here just before my 18th. But
no,
yeah, like I I kind of when someone says retro gaming to me, the first thing I think is like pixel graphics, like 8 and 16-bit, like you said, and even thinking of like PS1, Saturn, N64, like the first 3D console games coming around. That I think of those games, and that doesn't feel like retro to me. I don't know if it's just because we lived through it. I kind of make a distinction in my head where it's
yeah.
like old games, retro games. It's like they're not the same thing to me. So like PS1, Saturn, and 64 are old games to me, but they're not. They don't strike me as like they don't. My mind doesn't immediately go to retro when I think of that.
Mm.
I think of retro, and obviously I think part of this has been influenced by a lot of the indie game space is very sort of retro influenced. So a lot of them are like 2D, like pixel art, side scrollers and stuff. So maybe that influences my view of what retro means.
Yeah, 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 I see you. Like when I think retro, especially like with retro, a lot of there's a lot of people who like to collect retro games. There seems to be a period with retro gaming where the value, where not the value, but where people collect a type of a game from a particular era. I remember at one point, like everyone was collecting Nintendo games. You know, there was a big like the market for Nintendo games was crazy, and the value was just shooting up. And that was the same with Super Nintendo. The old cartridges sort of games. People were game hunting. I remember there was a period where I was watching a YouTube channel called the Game Chasers, and they're older than us, by the way. So they were always after like Atari sort of Nintendo games, and like I remember just reading a lot of comments and Reddits, subreddits that people were saying that these sort of things have drastically increased the value of games. Like if you think about like Super Mario Brothers, right? The one that came with Donkey Kong. Did that come with Donkey Kong? No. Duck
I
Hunt.
think so.
Sorry,
Oh, yeah, it was
Duck
Duck Hunt,
Hunt.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. That was a
That
common
smug
game.
dog.
Yeah. That how common was that game? I mean,
That was
like,
basically the pack in for the system.
I was
Like
like,
you bought an NES and you got that with it.
yeah, and they said that because the popularity of like game collecting, that game like sort of even though it was a common game, sort of doubled in value. So even when you were going like we don't actively go to like car boots or secondhand stores to look for games. We don't really do that, but we do go to the games market in London just for a
Yeah,
day
it's been a
out and
few
just to see what's
years.
about. Yeah,
Been a
we
few years
we
since we last went, but we were going pretty much every year
yeah
for a while.
we didn't go since the pandemic because that was in a closed space, so we haven't been back then. Um, but that's the only time I would go just to see what's about, see if there's anything that catches my eye, and it's a good day out. You've got the pub right next door to the venue, so that's always good to go. And it,
We're not
but
alcoholics, we swear.
yeah,
I know we talk about it when we
I
talk
mean,
about the events we go to.
yeah.
We talk about the events we go to, and we're
Oh,
like, and like 50% of it is drinking, but that's the weekend. Don't do this crap in the week.
we
Too
just
tired
complained.
from work.
Off camera, we were complaining. We were talking about work and how my company wanted me to work the weekend. And hopefully, no one sees this from there. But yeah, I just that
It's your free time, man.
weekend is my free time. I'm not like you want to be. They always say team player, and you want to help out
I
the
hate
company.
that
But
shit. I hate that
yeah,
stuff so much because it's like you pay me to do my hours. I'm doing my hours
mm,
as it is. Like most of my waking life is spent at work. The
mm,
little bit of free time I have outside of that is mine. Anyway, we're getting way off topic,
yeah, yeah. We're going off a bit, but
and
yeah,
that's
like
why we drink.
yeah. I mean, I do like, especially when you're out with your mates, you're having a beer and you're just having a good time. It sort of, for me anyway, like sort of enhances those sort of that experience,
Social
especially
lubricant
yeah. And then
in
when
a
you're
non-sexy way.
when you're at an event and you're enjoying yourself, it just helps and it sort of makes everything better. But anyway, yeah, we don't actively game hunt. We're not like that's not our thing. We don't do that. I mean, there was a period where I was collecting a lot of like OG Xbox games. You can see here, audio listeners, you can't see me pointing at my OG Xbox collection, but I was sort of looking for like OG Xbox games because they do had some like some really good like underrated games on there, some classics, some hidden gems in there, as Metal Jesus says. He's another one that we were watching at one point. He does a lot of retro game collecting as well.
Mm.
So, no, I haven't
And he's
watched him
got
in a
the
while, but
basement for it.
oh yeah, he does have the basement for it, which there's been some controversy about Metal Jesus, but we won't go into that. But yeah, he's another one I used to watch that collect games. But to have the 360 is a when I see 360 games at like when we go to cons, there's always like I can't remember what the company's name. They always seem to be there. Is it called Retro
Yeah,
Games or something? We
well,
go
they're
there.
cool, but they're at pretty much every event.
Yeah, every event we've been to. I mean, I think there's been one or two where they've not been there. I think MCM they haven't been there for since pre-pandemic.
They have
Uh,
been there in the past. They've been at LAGC. They've been at Hyper Japan. They've been at
yeah,
the London Gaming Market. They're always around.
yeah. What was I saying? I lost my trail of thought. Oh yeah, to see 360 games there, I'm like, this doesn't belong here.
Mm.
I mean, when I see Nintendo games, Game Boy games, especially the early Game Boy games, they sort of feel like and they're in the old boxes and the old cartridges and stuff. That's what I see as retro. I'm like, yeah, that's a retro game, and they're normally fucking really expensive. I'm like, oh man, I'm not paying that much for this game that came out. This is probably more than what the game was when it first came out. But obviously the value. I mean, like the Legend of Zelda, the one in the gold sort of cartridge. Um, that is like fucking extreme. That's ridiculously expensive
Pixie
now.
dust
Especially,
that thing now.
I remember I owned it, and I don't know what
Mm.
happened to it. It just sort of disappeared. Maybe someone took it from me or something. Or maybe when my mum was like clearing out my old room, she threw it away or something. It's like really annoying. I was just like, where is that? I did have it. But yeah, that I see as retro. But again, with retro, you get the people hunting it. I mean, like now,
Pushing the
like
prices up.
the prices or the value will go up. I could see that with 360 games because there were quite a few like underrated games on there, hidden gems, especially exclusive ones to set to come out. A lot of RPGs came out that was just exclusive to place to PlayStation to Xbox. I can see them sort of people hunting for them because like people half our age, they grew up on that. When they get older, they're gonna start hunting at that. Probably like a lot of people who hunt retro games, they sell off their collection, and when they get older, they get the nostalgia for it,
Mm.
and then they're like, I want to sort of not recapture you, but thinking about retro games sort of brings back a happier period for you. When you were young and free, didn't have so much burdens and that. So people go, oh, I want to buy these games and sort of like get
Relive
that
my
sort of,
youth a little bit.
yeah, sort of like it's kind of like that in a way. I never really got that sort of. I'm not really nostalgia driven. I bought 360 OG Xbox games not because they were retro. It's just because like I was like, there's a lot of good games on there that I want to sort of just own and maybe play one day. But I never was like, oh, this is my childhood because I wasn't a child then. I was a young adult, very well, young teen adult sort of thing. So I I don't buy it for I didn't buy I don't buy didn't buy OG Xbox games for that. But yeah, I mean having PlayStation 3 games as retro as well. That doesn't seem quite right as well. I mean, when you think about it, how long ago did they stop making games for those consoles? Like
Mm,
the early.
10, probably under 10 years ago. Well, yeah, because the PS4 and the Xbox One came out 10 years ago this year, and they were still getting games for like the first year of those consoles, I think. So probably 9 years. And then if you got stuff
Mm,
like Just Dance from Ubisoft, probably like that probably carried on for a few more years. But yeah, I mean, like Rise of the Tomb Raider came to the 360 in 2015. Titanfall was on the
mm.
360 in what was that, 2014? That came out, I think. So
Yeah,
it's not all that long ago.
so was Dragon Age Inquisition. My sister played that on the 360 first.
That kind of been fun.
No, didn't look good. And I was like, hold up, let me buy this on the Xbox One, and it looked a hell of a lot better. But yeah,
Destiny as well. That came out on that gen as well. But yeah, I
and
mean, I
obviously,
guess when you think of it, like the Xbox 360 came out in 2005, and that's like not far off 20 years ago, which just kind of seems crazy. 18 years ago this year it came out. So yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, kind of still have that delineation between like old games and retro games, and I don't think they're quite there yet for me. But I think another thing you picked up on, which was also kind of blurred the lines a bit, you said like about the Activision games having their like the old Call of Duty games having their servers picked back up again. And a large part of that is obviously down to Xbox's beast backwards compatibility stuff. So you got a good handful of OG Xbox games and a good few hundred 360 games that you can play right now on a Series X or a Series S, which kind of, for me, kind of helps those games still feel current in a way. And then I think it was one of the Black Ops games when they added that to BC, it like charted in the American games charts that month. So people like rushed out and rebought copies of it to play the online again. I think stuff like that for me just kind of keeps that gen kind of reasonably current in my head, and it just thinking of
yeah.
that as retro just doesn't make any sense to me.
I also feel like in my head, it's because of the technology contained with it. It does. It feels. It still is quite a modern console. You can go online with it. You play CDs instead of cartridges. Um, it's like the birth of the modern sort of console. I mean, like even now with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X it's still sort of, they share those sort of similar that sort of genesis, if that makes sense.
They're
The
basically the
con
same thing, just more
yeah,
powerful.
powerful. The controllers are the same. So there's not like when I think of retro games, especially with the Nintendo Sega era, they all look different from each other. The consoles, the controllers were different. The consoles were vastly different. They still used the cartridges, but even the cartridges were different.
Mm.
So that there was a sort of different sort of style to it back in the day, retro style, if you were. Even like the N64, they used discs, but it was like really tiny, sort of
And
small
that was the
discs.
GameCube that used
Sorry, the
discs.
GameCube. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
not the N64. N64
little
used
mini
cartridges as
discs.
well. Yeah, even the N64. They're bloody monstrosity of a controller. um,
Zeus's trident.
I mean, like even the OG Xbox did
Poseidon's
have
trident, probably.
the Duke, so that kind of like makes it feel a bit more. It was a transitional period, you know, but the 360, it's just like you say, it's the same machine but just more powerful. Like look how like
Does
the
all the
fancy,
same stuff.
yeah, the UI was like you didn't have that sort of thing back in the day. Well, really, I know you had it in PlayStation 2, OG Xbox. I mean, the OG Xbox is just a green fucking screen making some sounds every now and again, which sort of freaked me out back when I was back in the day.
That's the
But
thing, like from the PS1 up to sort of like just before the 360, really, your UI for your console was literally just like a menu screen where you could like look at your save games and play a CD,
oh yeah,
and
they
that was
play
about
CDs
it.
back in. I
Mm.
actually checked out my OG Xbox. I still have some songs on there, like recorded, like you could download them on there.
That was
I
such a
just
cool
listen.
feature. You could rip the
Yeah,
songs and then play them in a game. I
yeah.
hate
I
that.
mean,
I hate that that went away. It's really good for racing games.
maybe with copyright disputes and stuff, maybe they can't do that. So if you were live streaming and you just had your own, like copyrighted music on there,
Mm.
consoles now, they can go online. I remember the one of the downfalls of Xbox One was they try to make it into an all-in-one home entertainment thing, focus less
Hence
on
the
the
name.
games. Yeah, and focus less on the games and more on your living room. That sort of didn't really help, especially on launch. But yeah, like machine consoles now can, they're so powerful, like a mini PC. But like retro games, I was like more of an innocent time. That's how I see it anyway. It's just like pop a cold controller in, blow it maybe to get it to work, pop it in, and switch on and just play. No, nothing else to worry about. Just play the game, and the games normally work. They didn't need a day one patch or anything like that. I know it was
Plague
basic
didn't patch them.
technology. Yeah, exactly. So they had to work, but yeah, man. Like thinking of like when you get older, like kids will be like like your little nephew might be looking at like play Xbox Series X and go, look at this old piece of junk. You can't interact with it. He'll be with the old VR headsets and
Mm.
stuff like that, and playing like a version of Sword Art Online. Yeah, like in the virtual
Hopefully
world.
nobody gets trapped inside it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just the retro era, man. Like, what do you feel like anyway when you think of retro gaming? Like, what do you get nostalgic? Because like I said, I don't
Yeah,
really feel
I
that.
do get a bit nostalgic for stuff. Not heavily nostalgic. Like, I'm not like you have these people that keep all their old machines and they like keep a massive CRT going just to like
Yeah,
their old
yeah,
machines up to them just so they can look the way they did. I'm not doing that. Like, for one, I don't have the space for that, and two, I'm like, I'm not having to. I've got that. I've barely got the space for a TV. I'm not having two TVs, and one of them would be like take up half the room. So I'm not like that nostalgia driven in that sense where like everything has to be as it was. But like, I mean, like I bought both of the Mega Drive Minis. I've got the SNES Mini. I've bought like games on Steam, like older games I used to play. Um, I still have all my 360 games up here. And then on another shelf this side that you can't see in the video, PS3 ones are up there too. And then in the other alcove, I've got like Saturn, Dreamcast, OG Xbox, PS2, and GameCube stuff over there. So I get it, but to me, those aren't retro games. Like anything pre Saturn and PS1 and then 64, I don't have in here. Like they're all like in my parents' loft. And it's just like I'm not. It's effort to like go and hook up old systems and all that stuff. So I'm not nostalgia driven to that sort of extent. But it's like you mentioned earlier how the 360 was kind of like prime gaming for you, and it kind of was for me as well because I was a huge Sega fan growing up. Like my brother and I had the Master System and the Mega Drive. Grew up on those. We did get a SNES at one point as well, which we also liked. But then I got a Saturn. My brother got PS1. I got a Dreamcast, and then when the Dreamcast died, it kind of killed gaming for me for about a good like couple of years. Like, I still ended up with a GameCube and a OG Xbox, and I played a handful of games on each of them, but I wasn't really that into it. Like I played Halo 1 and Halo 2 on the OG Xbox. I played Knights of the Old Republic, a handful of other things, and that was about it. And the 360 like completely rejuvenated gaming for me. And it's one of my favorite generations. So maybe that's why I can't think of it as retro because it was kind of, I mean, again, it was less than 20 years ago anyway, but it was also like the period where I really got back into gaming in a big way.
Yeah. Obviously, the OG Xbox got me back into gaming. The 360 just had some of the best games that I have experienced. And to think of them as retro, I'm like, no, they're too good to be retro. So I always feel like retro is like old, like, like pixel graphics, shitty graphics and shit, like bird's eye view and side scrolling and, very simple times. To have like the 360 and the PS3 to be like considered retro, I'm just like, no retro, dude, man. Some of the games on
there,
there,
like game design hasn't really moved on all that much since that gen as well.
I mean, like they had like the Mass Effect series on that console. All three games. Normally, like a game that big will probably nowadays will probably be split over two generations. I know, like PlayStation like to do that, especially with The Last of Us. They always seem to wait to the console's last dying days to release that game, then have it like released on their next. They will definitely do that with PlayStation 5.
To The Last of Us 3 in 2027.
Yeah, they'll definitely do it. Garen, my word, put this down, flip this as me predicting that in the last year of the PlayStation 5, they will release The Last of Us 3. And when the PlayStation 6 comes out, they'll re-release it.
Remaster it.
Yeah, they'll remaster it. But yeah, like you had like games like the Mass Effect trilogy, all came out on that one. Yeah, all came out on that, and they still look great. I mean, like you say, game design, a game like it's not changed. They still have followed that sort of same blueprint, if that makes sense. There wasn't a drastic change.
Big like open world explosion was that gen. I had games before that were kind of open world, like you had GTA 3 on PS2 and OG Xbox, but open world games massively took off in that gen, and they're still kind of like dominating now. I mean, you had Skyrim on the 360, and that game took up 4 gig, and that was huge. And
God damn,
we're looking forward to Starfield coming out
2011.
Now.
Jesus Christ, that came out. That was a huge game.
Like it feels like game design hasn't. There hasn't been a leap. Obviously, there's been like incremental upgrades and stuff's been getting better and running better and looking better. But it feels like game structure is still very much where we were, sort of like towards the end of that gen when everything started to get a bit sort of RPG-ified. Like everything coming out and having RPG systems tacked onto it for sometimes no good reason.
Yeah.
So it feels like we're kind of still in that, just with better graphics and 60 FPS.
I still feel like that period it produced some of the best IPs as well. That's still, are still being made today. Obviously, I know Halo came out on the OG, but it had its best period on the 360. Had the Halo Reach
Halo
on there.
3 was so
Halo
big.
3 on the OG. PlayStation had obviously The Last of Us came out on that generation.
Uncharted as well.
Uncharted, Mass Effect. Tomb Raider, I know that came out, but that had the reboot on there that revitalized the brand. That came out on that generation.
Gears of
So
War.
Gears, yeah. And in my head, I'm just like, that can't. I know, like
Not be retro.
Nintendo still churn out Mario, but Mario's like, they just plonk Mario in any situation. I remember like Doctor Mario and shit like that on the Nintendo. So they just insert Mario in any sort of game. People talk about like Xbox flogging like their franchises to death. Nintendo have been doing that for fucking generations, man. They will insert Mario in any sort of game that suits their purpose.
Hey, I mean, they do it with other IPs as well. Who remembers Link's crossbow training on the Wii?
God, I don't remember that. No.
Like, there's no Halo battle rifle training on the Xbox, is there?
No. But yeah, seeing like, I know like even Fable like came out on the OG, but it also had like Fable 2 and 3 came out on the 360. And that's now being, that just missed out. It sort of died in the Xbox One era. They had games planned for it, Halo Heroes, and obviously Lionhead got shut down, but now they're reviving it, bringing it back. I would consider that a retro. Would I consider that as a retro franchise because it came out on the OG Xbox? Probably. I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there that really younger ones who didn't even realize it came out on the OG Xbox originally. And they're like thinking, oh, Halo, Fable, that's a new IP, is it? Oh, wow. But us old hats know that came out in the OG. And I'd probably consider that a bit retro. Probably, yeah. But anything on the 360, I can't see that. That doesn't make sense to me. Some of the graphics on there, on some of those games, were just phenomenal back in the day.
That's the thing. I mean, you play like Gears of War Judgment or Uncharted 3, like some of the best looking games of that gen, Gears 3 as well. The original version of The Last of Us, Killzone 2 on the PS3. Those games still, I mean, you put those games at a higher resolution, they still look amazing. But yeah, like I just can't get on board with 360 and PS3 being retro. It just makes my brain hurt.
What about the handhelds then? Like I consider obviously like Nintendo handhelds, they were retro. You had the other one as well. You had Genesis, not Genesis. What was the Sega one?
Game Gear.
Game Gear. Yeah. What was the Atari one? The Atari
The Lynx.
Lynx. Yeah. That was.
Yeah,
I never got into
retro,
that one.
But they're like 90s, early 90s.
Yeah, but do you consider the handhelds like? Would you consider the PSP retro?
Probably not, to be honest.
No.
Even though that's like older than the 360. I think it was like 2004 that came out. But I mean, that thing was mind blowing when it came out. It was like nothing got close to that in the handheld. Like that was the same time as the Nintendo DS. And I think PSP games still look good. I mean, obviously they look of their generation, kind of slightly sub PS2, but yeah, I don't know. That still feels like an impressive bit of tech to me. I don't know. Even though I'm sitting here with a Steam Deck and playing like Assassin's Creed Odyssey on it or whatever. It's still PSP still seems pretty impressive to me. But yeah, I mean, probably anything below that, like the DS and down, feels reasonable. Well, to be honest, I don't even know if I'd call the DS retro. The Game Boy Advance and down, maybe. I don't know. Like I say, like the word retro to me just conjures up like pixel art and simpler sort of game design. Maybe I don't know.
Simpler times. The technology was still, wasn't there. Obviously, still a bit ropey, but it just sort of people, the nostalgia reminds them of their childhood and shit like that. So like I say, like there are people now, kids these days or young adults who grew up on the 360. That to them is their childhood, and that to them is retro. And if I go, I don't know, we haven't met anyone who's gone to us go, oh yeah, man, this is old school. This is an old school game. And someone said that to me, I'll just cheeky little slap him across the face. backhand him, buy him a pint,
No, this is
sit
a
him down.
classic.
What are you
That's the
talking
word you
about?
mean.
It's a classic, not retro, not not old. You know, maybe with the passing of time, we're obviously we're one of the older gentlemen now, and maybe people will say to us, "You still play video games? You're a bit too old for that now. You're still too old to be going to these like cons and playing games and watching anime and collecting like you know figures and shit like that. Like obviously, well, me and you both have.
Never,
Um,
never too old.
yeah, but like I say to people like that, there's people who collect stamps, people who really into cars. People collect trainers. People like to collect things. This is just some of our nature.
Mm.
Um, so like, but people like I like we like football. We both support teams. We're not mad into football, but we still watch it. Um, but there's just people who, like have their passions. A lot of people like films. I like films, but I don't actively go out to collect like
Blu-rays and
DVDs,
stuff.
Blu-rays, and shit like that. But there's a lot of film buffs out there who will like that, and they collect VHSs. That seems to be a big thing. Vinyl's making its comeback now. I
Okay,
mean,
so
vinyl,
VHS I will call retro.
yeah, VHS is retro, yeah. But
I
I'm just
still
saying,
have some lying around.
I'm just using that as an example. Like when people say you're too old for collecting this and that,
Mm.
but vinyl's making a comeback. Vinyl was like a technology that was dead when we were kids. Like CDs and tape, like especially cassettes, were dying as well. But like we sort of grew up on CDs,
I still
not
remember growing up and you get in a car and there's a tape deck in the car. And now you get in a
yeah,
car and there's most cars don't even have a CD player now.
no, no, it's
Now times have changed. But yeah, I'd
yeah,
like to ask people watching and listening, if you're
no,
watching on YouTube, I guess, in the comments
don't
below,
know.
let us know
We never
what
get comments on these
what
videos.
I know, but just in case, let us know in the comments below what constitutes retro for you. If you feel like we're just old and jaded and stupid and 360 and hell, maybe even Xbox One and PS4 is retro now,
Hell
then
no.
yeah,
No
sound off in
fucking
the
chance.
comments below.
No chance. That's still games are still being made for that. That's no way retro, man. If games are still being made for that console, unfortunately, because it's annoying. I kind of want to I get it. How many years has it been now? 3 years since the new consoles have been
Coming
released.
up on 3.
Yeah. After that, stop making games for those consoles. Let's move on. Let's fully invest in this current generation. You know, come on, that's long enough now. You're holding us back. Let's not having to make stuff for an old for that tech. So yeah, like Mr. Ross said, if you or sure if you guys have an opinion on what is retro, what is not, let us know in the comments on this YouTube video. If you hate the idea, if you love the idea, just let us know. If you think we're just all a bunch of old, tired, old men who should just go to bed and have tea, let us know.
Even if you have no thoughts at all, leave them in the comments below because we could really do with some comments.
Yeah, I mean, people watch the videos, but just don't fucking comment on it. It's just the only time people seem to comment is on uh, our vlogs, which I maintain we should just turn into a vlog channel. Just tour the UK and the world, just go to cons.
Hey, if we win the lottery, then that might be a reasonable thing to do. But as things stand, we go to like maybe 3 or 4 events a year. So I don't think we can do 3 or 4 videos.
Yeah.
We'll
I
never
would
get
like
monetized at that rate.
I would like to do one outside of London in the UK somewhere. I think that would be pretty interesting. I mean, you got things like we got stuff in like Wales, Birmingham, Manchester, even Scotland that I'm very like interested to do. I don't think there'll be much of a difference, but it'd be nice to try somewhere outside of London. I mean,
I
like
mean,
Birmingham,
I've been
Birmingham
thinking
can,
for a while that it would be cool if we went and did AX in the US, but obviously that's a huge commitment.
yeah, that
But
was
then
going to be one of those.
there's one in France as well. I mean, that'd
Yeah,
be maybe like a medium step towards that.
think
But yeah,
France will
we
be
should do more
doable.
stuff around.
Yeah. France will be doable. Pretty cheap to get there on the Eurostar. Get there. It's just you just have to hang out with French people. Um, but
Hey,
yeah,
they're
like
okay.
uh, I don't know. I don't think Parisians are particularly liked even by French people. I think they're kind of like looked down on. They're
Well,
not
it's
very.
kind of the same with London here. Everyone outside of London hates London. Many of them have
Yeah,
never been to London.
never, and a lot of them moved to London. London is not just full of Londoners; it's full of people from outside of London, from the other parts of the UK and the world. It's a very multinational city. So be that as it may, me and you are both born in London. Dan was born in Surrey, but it's got nothing to do with our topic. But we're just having a bit of friendly banter.
Having a pop
Anyway,
at him.
yeah, what is happening on the channel? We're we are speaking of cons. We are going to the London Anime and Gaming Con in August the 12th, which is the Saturday event. We'll be taking our good chum, other Paul, along as well. He'll be his first time to go, so
Back
maybe
up,
we'll
Paul.
back up Paul. So just in case something happens to this Paul, me, we
Still
have
got another
another
Paul.
Paul. We got another Paul. We just have to find a backup Raws, but no one has that name
Good
Rory.
luck.
It's such a shitty name that no one really wants to have. Even the Irish don't want to have it. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh no, no, not Rory. Let's call him Seamus or something. Or Connor. Connor's is a popular one now. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, we'll be at the London Anime and Gaming Con, filming a video, having a few beers, showing other Paul around the con. Hopefully he's not too. I did send him links to our videos because I said I think you better get an idea of what it's like.
Yeah, don't go and expecting
Mm,
like the moon on
mm.
a stick,
Yeah,
because then it's a lot better.
don't expect an MCM. Don't expect that. You're not going to get that. I personally really like LAGC. I think it's an underrated con. I'm glad it's getting
Feels
better.
more grassroots.
We've been this when it was at the London Metropolitan University, when it was very small and when it was only over 18s only. But I'm glad to see it grow, and I'm happy for it because
New
I think we
venue's
need more.
way better.
It's much better. But yeah, we're glad to see it grow, and hopefully it'll continue to grow and become the premier anime convention in London.
And then, they'll invite us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still push for those press passes. I mean, next time when we do the next video, I'm gonna leave a little comment on Twitter or put it in the bio of the video. Come on, LAGC. Yeah, we give you a lot of publicity here, man.
Or we'll just do it. The entire video will just be us whining about them not inviting us. The entire video will just be about it.
Yeah.
Sure, none of the event, it'll just be like 20 minutes of us going, oh, it'd be cool if they invited us.
We're here, but we don't want to pay for it. For God's sake, man.
We've been paying for years. We've earned our one free trip.
Yeah, we would like to go.
When you buy coffee at Cafe Nero and you get your card stamped, the 10th one is free.
Yeah, go on, give us a freebie. Let us come for the whole weekend. We'll do videos on it. We'll maybe live stream some. We'll put a lot of stuff on Instagram, all the social media stuff, and we'll get more people invested in your con. But yeah, Halo Infinite, let's co-op. That's been put on the back burner for now. We will
As
get
we
back
mentioned,
into it.
We went to Lisbon, so we just weren't here.
Yeah, but we will get back into that, and we will then decide once we complete that what will be our next Let's Co-op, because that will be primarily our thing now, is like co-oping online instead of like meeting in person and playing, watching one person play. We'll be doing like more of a whole
We
Let's
actually
Play
haven't done that since the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think the last video we did might have been like when Fallen Order came out.
Yeah.
And because you came around here, because I subbed to EA Play or whatever it's called for a month to get to play it. because I was skint at the time and couldn't afford the game. And then you came around and we did a quick we did like an hour long video on it. I think that
Yeah,
was like right before the pandemic. So I think that might have been the last thing we did,
yeah.
and we
It's
haven't recorded together since.
it's difficult, I feel, to do let's plays now, especially with the rise of streaming. You know, it's sort of like that format was big in the early days. No, it wasn't in the early days. In sort of like the mid 2000s, it was like huge. There was a lot of let's players popping up on YouTube, and it was massive. But now it sort of died down, and I don't think it's as popular now. So that's why we don't really do full like let's plays anymore. We mostly do like let's co-op and one-offs like quick looks or exploring Game Pass videos, which I personally think is better. Just a little short little sample of it instead of a whole let's play. That's why we got the our Twitch channel again with Chums. We'll do more sort of full on like play the whole game sort of thing, which I'm currently like nearly completed Dragon Age Inquisition. Like on the last mission, you gotta go and talk to Morrigan, who's had her son kidnapped, and got to do that part. But then it's straight on to the last battle.
Good game. I
But
like DAI.
yeah, it is, but it's got a lot of fucking bollocks in there. So much of that stuff you can just ignore. So much of the quests and side quests and stuff is just you just don't need to do it. I did it all when I first played it, but on this let's play through, hell no, I'm not doing all that. No way. I do enough so I can gain power to unlock other areas, but I don't do any more because I'm just like I'll be here forever.
Yeah,
It does take a long time.
When I first played it and when the DLCs all came out and everything, in total I did nearly 300 hours in that game. If I was going to replay it before Dreadwolf comes out, I would not be doing everything.
You
But
want
there's
to
quite a bit of stuff in there that ties into the novels, and I really like the novels, so that was quite
Are
nice.
you going to replay it before Dread Wolf comes out?
Probably
You
not,
are, aren't you?
it's long.
Okay. I was just going to make a little joke at you, at your expense, humiliate. Well, not humiliate, but just make a little joke.
I mean, I do like when a new Halo comes out, I do a marathon of all the Halo games, but they're short games. But like, I'm not going to play like three
RPGs,
RPGs.
just fuck that. I mean,
If I wanted to play them all before Dreadwolf comes out, I'd have to start now. And we don't even have a date for Dreadwolf yet.
I'm doing Inquisition because I've done Origins. I've done 2, which I did it in the reverse, different order. I did 2 first, then Origins. Then I was like, well, I've got to do all 3 now. I've got to finish like Inquisition, and I did that with Mass Effect. I played the Legendary Edition all the way through, which was an experience. It's so good, man. Even thinking about it now makes me feel like, you know what, I can actually do that again. I could just like, maybe play a bit more, start from Mass Effect 1 again, import my like OP character and just have him just decimate everyone. I could probably do that again, but yeah. Anyway, retro gaming and all that, nostalgia. Because he's a great game, I don't think gaming has improved since then. But yeah, that's going to be it for us, Mr. Raws. You can find us on every podcast platform apart from Apple Music or whatever it's called now.
Boo you, Tim Apple.
Yep. Because you have to pay to put your stuff on there. You have to pay. You have to buy something to be able to have the privilege to put your podcast on there.
Wait, you got to give Apple money for stuff? I've never heard this before.
No. But everywhere else you can get us on your major platforms. So yeah, if you want to listen to us, you listen to our silky voices instead of looking at our ugly mugs in our nerdy rooms. Then
speak for yourself.
Then give us a listen, and yeah, we will be back again in 2 weeks' time. We'll probably talk about by that time. No way, we'll be at LAGC, won't we? Maybe we'll do that on the day after, won't we? On the Sunday, talk about.
Eventually, depends how we're feeling.
Yeah, we do tend, because they got a bar there. a big fuck off bar in the hotel,
An actual proper bar.
an actual proper bar, and we take full advantage of that.
Although let's remember not to get that honey ale this time.
It's too bloody expensive.
It sure is.
It really is. We have other Paul with us, and maybe he won't want to drink that much, but he'll still have to sit with us and watch us drink. Anyway, but yeah, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again on the flip side. Bye bye, old man.
See ya, pals.
Dun, dun.